Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Joshua Berka. I am the medical consultant for Bemer North America, and I have three very special guests today, Mark Abma, Louie Vito, and Rebecca Rusch. Rebecca, please introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Rusch. I'm an ultra endurance athlete, and my nickname is the Queen of Pain, but don't let that scare you.
Wonderful. Mark Abma, please introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Mark Abma. I've been a professional free skier for 23 years now and based myself out of Whistler, Squamish, Pemberton, British Columbia.
Very well. Louie Vito, please tell us about yourself.
What's up? I'm Louie Vito. I'm a professional snowboarder, and I tend to ride a lot of half pipes.
Thank you for being here. You are our Bemer Sports Ambassadors, and it's my pleasure to have you. I want to first ask you, do you guys know each other from the sports world before being Bemer ambassadors?
I know of Louie Vito.
Yeah, everyone knows Louie. I know Louie too from from a while back, but I don't know Mark yet. Nice to meet you, Mark.
Nice to meet you, Rebecca.
Fabulous. Glad that we can all connect together. Ultimately, we're connecting under the aspect of sports, but also the love, including myself, for the outdoors. So how did you guys find out about Bemer? You guys are all in the action sports world. I guess I'll ask you first, Rebecca. How did you find out about Bemer?
I found out about Bemer through a fellow athlete who lives here in Sun Valley and started working with Bemer, and it's like, oh, you got to find out about this. You got to know about this. So yeah, a good friend of mine and a lifelong athlete that I've really respected. And so yeah, it was sort of a referral through a fellow athlete friend.
Wonderful. How about you, Louie? How'd you find out about Bemer?
You know, it's funny. Years ago, somebody talked to me about it, but I think I was just talking to somebody how back in the day, you feel good. You don't really think about taking care of your body for the longevity. And so now we fast forward, my body's been through the ringer, and a friend was talking to me about it, and they said that Bemer's the top of the line. So I said, well, if I'm going to, try to use a product, I'm always going to go to the top of the line. And I had another athlete that used it and was like, this is the best. It worked wonders for me. So that same thing, athlete referral.
Wonderful. And Mark, finally, yourself, how did you hear about Bemer technology up in Canada?
I heard about it through a few massage therapists that work on athletes. And so they have the Bemer mat on their table. So while they're working on people, they're getting a Bemer treatment in addition. And of course, Whistler has a lot of athletes. And so she's been able to see the benefits from multiple different athletes coming in.
Perfect. So also for yourself, Mark, as a free skier, someone who's constantly getting pounded out by the mountains and bikes and just nature, what have you found that Bemer does for you in general, if you wouldn't mind?
So as far as the mountains beating me up, it helps speed up my recovery so that I can get back into the mountains that much quicker. The other part of my daily life is training so that I don't get beat up as badly. And so with that, I'm training hard. And so with that, recovery is a huge component so that you can get back and keep training. And so this helps speed up that recovery.
Wonderful, wonderful. And for yourself, Louie, as a professional snowboarder, what have you found as far as in general Bemer doing for you?
Well, it's actually, I can't even really put it into like just one thing. I mean, I have been riding with a tear in my L4 disc. My L5 looks like a gummy worm and squirts out. And, I would constantly be locked up. Like if I went hard for 5 days riding half pipe, locked up, hips shifted, SIs locked. And really we talked and I kind of gave you my day-to-day, whether it's training or snowboarding. And if I take a hard impact and I am getting a little stiff, what to do. And I'm going to knock on wood just to be a little bit careful here. But I've made it through all fall heavy camp of riding a ton, and all winter, my back just feels so much better. And I went from cortisone shot to getting body work done constantly just to not get locked up, to get locked up. And this has just allowed me to feel so much more fresh and my back to be feeling great, especially with all the impacts that I take.
Well, thank you for that. And Rebecca, as an endurance athlete, what have you found that Beamer's done for you over the time that you've been using it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little different in Louis. I try not to crash and, a different type of a sport with endurance. And so I'm, relatively injury free, which knock on wood also, which is great. And my usage, my kind of training is just a lot of hours, back to back days. I do events that are 24 hours to 2 weeks long. And so really it's being able to put in the volume of the training that I want to do, and really using Beamer less as an injury tool, but more as a recovery tool.
Very well, very well. One of the things is most people go to the gym in training. They train at home, but a lot of times, and I'm not saying you don't do that, of course you do, but many times you guys are performing and training in, well, we'll say volatile or unpredictable environments sometimes. Where's kind of the most crazy place or the most out there place that you've taken your Beamer with you?
Well, I'll go first. I go because I have probably the least crazy because I literally wake up early and before I even roll out of bed, I do my whole cycle, do everything right then and there because for me, once I'm out, I'm on the mountain and I don't really have time to, do it on the chairlift. And plus, I baby my machine like to the max. I keep it very clean. I keep it covered. I'm so like careful with it, so it stays right next to my bed. If I travel wherever I am, it's always right next to my bed. Wake up, drink some water. First thing I do is get on the Beamer and kind of start my morning that way.
That's a great start of a new day every day. How about you, Rebecca? Where's the?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as Louis in that, like, I keep it right by my bed so that it is just part of my morning and evening ritual. And it's just like clockwork. And, this year people have been traveling a lot less and last year than typical. So I haven't yet traveled with my Beamer. And right now it's just kind of part of my daily schedule in the bedroom.
Wonderful. And how about for you, Mark? Where's the most unique place you've taken your Beamer?
I have an off-grid property on an island just south of Squamish where I'm living. And so we don't have any power to the property and it's all solar powered.
Love it.
And so I use that solar power to help charge the battery pack and then rely upon that to run the Beamer for the next 4 or 5 days or so.
Yeah, Mark, you bring up a really interesting thing, the idea of taking energy from the sun, transferring it into the battery of the Beamer, and then ultimately transferring that into
Yeah.
the human body. And this is very relevant the way that you're speaking about this, because what we're doing is energy can't be created or destroyed. We're literally transferring energy, quote unquote, information from the Beamer device to our body. And the cool thing about this information is this is built off or fundamentally based off the geomagnetic field, the Earth's heartbeat, the sinus rhythm, which helps our body remember to get back into sync, to stimulate vasomotion, and to enhance microcirculation. Louie, for example, I'm going to run through and just ask some questions to each of you individually. Louie, as an extreme sports athlete, especially the snowboarder culture, they're not necessarily known for biohacking their fitness. How did you get into Beamer? You said how you found Beamer, but was there anyone that was aiding you and saying, hey, this could help you with performance or anything like that?
I think a lot of us can relate to just people who recommended it to us, or people that we respect and understand that they think of more than just take some Advil, go get some body work done. They really have studied it. And I'll just say, because Amy Purdy, who's a great friend of mine, and she's somebody who I really respect as a person, as an athlete, but also the research that she does, and especially with being a Paralympian, that's constantly evolving. And then I sent it over to one of my mentors, who's Apollo Ono. And, the only thing I remember him writing back is, science is real. That's all he said back to me. And I'm like, I agree. I just wanted, and he's somebody that is constantly studying it. And so those are two people that I really respect on that front. And as I've gotten older, it's really trying to figure out what works best for me, because whether it's what I'm putting in my body, how I'm treating, how I'm recovering, because every body type's a bit different. Every kind of riding style, like I tend to be very strong, but I'm able to take a lot more impacts. So it's kind of a give and take. Like, yes, I land more runs, but I also take a lot more impact through my whole body. And then how I train, everything's different per person. So as I've gotten older, I've started studying it a little bit more and really seeing what's working. And probably my back with the discs have been the hardest on my body. I mean, I've broken my femur in half. I've ridden with broken wrists and meniscus, and I rode with a broken back. I've done all that. But the discs have been really difficult for me because it'll make it where, I can barely even move out of bed, or, if I land, I have to land with my hands on my knees, and it's just been horrible. So I've been constantly trying to figure out how to get my back under control because I'm healthy, I'm strong. And this is the first thing I've ever used that has allowed me to go through a whole season. And especially with how much I've been riding, it pretty much blows me away.
And Bemer is putting out the same information for each person. So it's not necessarily personalized, but the way an individual uses the Bemer is personalized. And for yourself, wrapping it around your lower back, supporting that microcirculatory blood flow. The reason why you're getting that recovery is because one of the things that we know is when we are tight or we're in a hypertonic muscular situation. I mean, take a look at this. My hand is white if you can't see it. And then I let it go and it starts to reperfuse. Those muscles, those paraspinals that are holding on for dear life, trying to stabilize the destabilized lower lumbar, and that involves the pelvic floor, the sacrum, all those are directly involved. And so Bemer is going to lend a helping hand to support that recovery, regeneration, and ultimately lends to your performance. So thank you for that, Louie. Mark, I'm going to flip over to you for a second. Canadians, I mean, they always seem to be aware, or at least they're up on a lot of health and wellness secrets. Bemer only started distributing in Canada a couple of years ago. You said it was a friend of yours, a therapist, that kind of introduced you to Bemer. Have you shared or introduced this to other athletes that you're working with, or friends, colleagues, or is this something you kind of keep to yourself?
No, I definitely share this with a lot of my friends. As I'm traveling with it, we're all kind of experiencing our own aches and pains. And then my girlfriend as well, she's a massage therapist, and she's been dealing with wrist and hand kind of tendonitis issues. And she's been able to put the spot directly onto those painful spots for her. And she's experienced immediate relief. And so that means she can get back to work and she can continue helping others. So it's been really, really nice to be able to share that with her.
Wonderful, wonderful. And this brings me to you, Rebecca, because I mean, of course, Louie, Mark, I mean, they're pounding through the mountains of snow. Same with yourself, but you're also an endurance athlete, and you are constantly in the same ergonomic position for sometimes hours at a time. And so from that perspective, as an ultra endurance athlete, you're competing in a wide variety of sports. What aspect of training, performance, recovery do you find Bemer helps you the most?
I think Louis said it really well in that the science is real. And I think sometimes, with a device like Bemer, it's hard to know what's actually happening because you can't see it. Sometimes you can't even feel it. But as you talked about the circulation, our body is made up of trillions of cells, and they all need food and nutrients and oxygen. And that delivery system is your circulation. And even though our heart is going to beat until the day that we die, microcirculation deteriorates as we age for everybody. And so keeping that blood flow going, I don't need to feel it or have some really like earth shattering like light go off, knowing that the science is increasing that microcirculation, and knowing that, when I train as an athlete, blood flow is healing. And the more that I can get and the more circulation is happening, to me, that's the holy grail. And Louis touched on it a little bit too. It's like we all want to be lifelong athletes. We want to move our bodies. And even if you don't consider yourself an athlete, we all want to move comfortably and without pain for our entire lives. And this is a tool that is helping you get there in a way that has not been accessible before. And that's what's really exciting to me, is just like you said, the science is real and I know what's happening in there. And I've noticed I'm sleeping better. I'm taking care of myself better. And it's almost like, I feel like some of these tools that we use, it's a wonderful spiral that, like Louis said, if you go and get on the Bemer during the day, you're actually taking a few minutes to down regulate and to relax and to calm your mind and body. And at the same time, you're increasing your circulation. And so it's kind of like a spectrum. And I feel like all of these things build on each other. But I noticed that, getting on the Bemer, doing it every morning, every evening, I'm just more conscious of my health and wellness as a whole. And knowing that the science is really happening is kind of excited. Like, I get happy. I want to get on that thing because I know it's doing something.
Absolutely. And the science is absolutely real. And whether you're aware of it or not, it's not just your heartbeat that's pumping. And think about a pump, it has to contract, and the key is relax. And back to biohacking, because this is a relatively the most important aspects about how one performs is how resilient are you? How adaptable are you? And that's not just how your heart beat, it's how the micro vessels are pumping, vasomotor function, these micro oscillations that are in charge of moving the blood to those target tissues, as well as removing those waste products that ensue from high level performance and training. So this is going on. And I mean, whether you know the science or not, folks, it doesn't matter. You feel the outcomes, and that's really the most important. So that has effects both physically and mentally. Louie, back to you. Have you found anything, not just physically, but mentally, either clarity, sleeping better, any of these things that you found with using the Bemer product?
Well, I mean, the main thing, which kind of goes into the physicality of it, is I'm not as stressed out. You have a hard day, whether I banged my knee when I was in Switzerland to where, it was swelled up huge, and whether my back is getting jammed. When I am using the Bemer, I can rest a little bit more mentally, mostly in the fact that I know that my body's moving in the right direction, and I will feel better in the morning. And when I do another cycle in the morning, and I think that's the biggest thing, because, for me, the last, 6-7 years, it's always been like, oh, I took a lot of flat landings today. I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. And then your mind's continually racing. So I think that's part of it, just allowing me to be at ease a little bit more. And then in the morning, it's just such a great routine for me to just, I'm waking up, I get on the Bemer, and I kind of just take a second also to slow everything down and just breathe and just relax. And I think that's really helped me because I have bad ADHD, and I'm always like, wake up, go, boom, 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 boom. This has allowed me to slow everything down and kind of meditate in a sense, without going too far into meditation, but just relax and calm everything down and let the Bemer do its thing and let my body slowly start focusing on what I'm about to attack for that day.
Yeah, you nailed it, Louie, because when we talk about this contraction and relaxation, this folds full circle into autonomic regulation, the regulation between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Little do many people know, but Bemer works with two different frequencies, supporting the self-regulation of blood flow through balancing that autonomics. And that's where this biohack comes in, the ability to maintain, and I'll say it here, in the zone, in that space. And everyone on this interview, this gathering knows what that means. Have you, Rebecca, Mark, or Louie, and I know it's a very fine, subtle aspect, have you noticed any changes in sleep patterns or heart rate variability or any other biometrics that you look, or otherwise just feeling more refreshed, more regenerated after waking up? Maybe first you, Mark.
Yeah, I think taking the time in the evening just to give myself that time to decompress and deregulate from the day puts me in pole position to have a good rest in the evening. So, because otherwise I find so often I can stay up late on my computer or on my phone, and I think it's just good to take that time away from our digital technology and put it into our body and mind, and silencing that and healing that. And that's just a great way to prepare yourself for a good night's sleep.
Absolutely. Retract from the distractions, reset. And Rebecca, how about for yourself? Have you noticed any changes in sleep quality, or a better, deeper night's sleep, or even getting up and being able to perform with more gusto, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I love what the guys are saying about how it's sort of a byproduct of using the Bemer is that it actually makes you slow down. It makes you have some mindfulness. It makes you put the digital stuff away. So it's actually sort of nice byproducts that we know we should be doing anyway. But by having that regimen, you're going to start putting that into your lifestyle. For me, I've absolutely noticed that my sleep has been really good. And I'm actually tracking sleep on 2 different devices, just kind of measuring, you know, and I'm getting really high scores. And to me, that's super motivating. And it makes me, you know, want to continue to sleep better. Like I get all competitive about how high my sleep score can be, which is really awesome because I know that I'm going to wake up the next morning and be really ready to hit it hard again.
And that's exactly how I objectively support my patients, athletes who I work with, is utilizing set objective analyses to say, okay, am I performing better? Am I recovering better? So heart rate variability, sleep-wake cycles. And so when I look at you and your performance as an endurance athlete, so many athletes try to protect themselves, endurance competitors, especially cyclists, they put a tremendous amount of stress. And I know, Mark, you also cycle. Louie also likes to ride bikes too. But hips, knees, ankles, shoulders, and these make overuse injuries and chronic injuries a common concern. So do you use Bemer on specific areas of your body? If so, how for self-treatment or prevention of injuries? So how are you using it in different areas of the body?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on it pretty well, is that, you know, it's like the lower back, hips, you know, that area, I think for anybody, but especially cycling, being in a bent over position, or anybody who works at a computer or goes on a Zoom call or anything like that, we're in a folded over position for a lot of our day, which isn't how we were meant to be. And so, yeah, if, you know, if there's lower back issues going on, you know, I try to be really vigilant about stretching and preventing those things first. But yeah, I have used the Spot device and putting it on certain areas. Most recently, I actually just got my second COVID vaccine and my arm was really sore. So I actually put the put the Bemer on my shoulder to try to increase the blood flow to that area, and it seemed fine the next day. So that was no big deal to get the shot. But that was kind of the funniest use I think I've had for the Bemer, is putting it on after my vaccine.
Sure. I mean, and you bring it up because it felt better, I'm sure. And so
Yeah.
many think that, oh my gosh, usually I take a pill or a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, a corticosteroid. Louie, you brought it up many times, even months ago when we chatted. These are suppressive therapies. They serve their purpose, but ultimately don't allow for true recovery healing, which then can set up for more chronic injuries. So in these situations, Bemer's not anti-inflammatory, it's pro-inflammatory, and it helps to lead the body into the self-regulatory process. If somebody is not moving into the regenerative stage of a healing process, or they're not truly recovering, and if so, that sets them up for a precursor of another injury or chronic injury. So thank you so much for that, Rebecca. We need oxygen. First of all, you talked about blood flow. We need blood flow. We need to deliver nutrients to the target tissue as well as remove the waste products from the damage. And carbon dioxide and oxygen is just one of these transfers. There's also lactic acid. And Louie, for example, and this was for all of you, but I'll first chat with Louie here. Louie, when you're boarding at high altitudes where oxygen's low and lactic acid buildup's high or more amplified, how have you noticed the effects of Bemer on your performance and recovery at high elevations versus low elevations? Any changes or shifts there?
Well, I mean, I think it's just so complementary to the training you do or I do off the snow, like all off season, you know, the workouts that I do, I think they go hand in hand. And I was going to say this earlier. I think the great thing about Bemer is, you know, you always pay attention to working out and eating right. Well, this is a very big component. When you add those all together, everything works together and you're getting the most out of the workouts. You're getting the most out of the food. You're getting the most out of your recovery, things that you normally do. This just amplifies it. But I've been pretty impressed because I had a few camps in Colorado, and Salt Lake has some elevation, but in Colorado, you know, you're living and sleeping at 9,600 feet before you're even up on the mountain. And I was hiking, and I'd be hiking 4 or 5 hours straight, hike up, do 2 tricks, hike up, do 2 tricks nonstop. And my body felt great. I wasn't sore the next day. I wasn't breathing super hard when I'm doing it. And yes, I know some of it is part of my workout and the strength that I have, but the fact that I had my legs were fresh every single day, and I was able to do 5-6 days straight, which for the last few years I haven't been able to because my back would be sore and stiff and jammed up. And I'm like, oh, well, today, you know, I didn't really land that flat. Well, then I'd have some really flat landing days. And Same thing, felt great the next day, but I was doing it and I was on top of it, waking up, Bemer, coming back from riding, Bemer, going to bed, Bemer. And just, I think everything that I do put together and then adding the whole Bemer aspect to it, it's been very interesting to see. And it's like something new every day.
Awesome. That's so good to hear. And how about for you, Mark? Especially working with high elevations, you're in between sea level, you're going up high elevations. Have you found any support using Bemer? And I'm not saying it's enhancing erythropoietin or oxygen carrying capacity, but more maximizing and optimizing your potential. How about yourself, Mark?
I've had ACL surgeries on both my knees.
Okay.
And I deal with meniscus issues in my left knee. So me managing my inflammation is something that I'm constantly working on. I've also got a bit of a tight lower back that I'm constantly monitoring. And so ultimately me minimizing inflammation is what's key for me to be able to get back up high. And so that's the part of my daily routine is to put a wrap around my knee, lay on the mat. That's helping out with my back. And so long as I can stay on top of those two parts of my body, then I'm able to continue skiing every day.
That's awesome. And you bring up two important factors, and it comes down to a high level of maturity to understand, yeah, my strength, and two, my vulnerabilities. I'm not saying to focus on the vulnerabilities, but to be aware of them because we're only as strong as our weakest link. That's mental, physical, emotional, however you want to look at it. But Louie brought up this idea of nutrition. And for me, it's not just what you put in your mouth, it's how you assimilate that, digest it, assimilate it, and then deliver it to the target tissue. And that's where Bemer comes in. You talked about your knees. Say you're taking some supplements or nutraceuticals, you can take them 15, 20 minutes before you're doing that application to your knees, lower back, and support the enhancement of that bioavailability of those nutraceuticals or even pharmaceutical agents. Becca, Mark, Louie, I do want to give you a question for all three of you. And whether you're engaged in your sport, activity, or just simply living life, we all know or seek to know what it means to be in balance, to be in the flow, or to be at your highest performance. And that's the zone. I spoke about this before. We've used Bemer as a biohack for your biology to stay in the zone, supporting that performance, supporting your recovery to the highest potential. Have you found yourself being able to access that special place, space, and I don't even want to call that anything because it seems to be a place in between breaths, in between motion, that zone where there's no time, there's no space. And I think this is one of the things, at least for me as an athlete, not certainly like you, that I return to the mountains for, I return to myself for. Is this something that you found in addition to your daily work with yourself, having Bemer as an adjunct to help support that, being in the zone or finding your balance? We'll just say Mark first.
Yeah, I think just with daily life, we all have a lot going on these days, whether it's family, business, or sport, etc. And just the fact that we're taking that time to heal ourselves, and the fact that we can do that at home and create that silence for ourselves. And also it's a time for me just to kind of focus and meditate or manifest what I want to do the next day on the mountain. And I think that is a huge component for my sport and for life. And so it's just an amazing time to be able to give that to yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rebecca, your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, flow in the zone. I mean, it's we all crave it. You know, it's like we all want that. We all want to feel like we're performing at our best. And for anyone who is listening in and might not consider themselves an athlete, I'm going to say, change that dialogue, because we're all performing humans in this body that we have, and you want to perform at your best, whether you're Louie or me or Mark, that doesn't matter. So even if you just want to feel good walking your dog, you're an athlete and your body is a performance machine. And, I really like how Bemer is connecting the biology of what's going on and the microcirculation, but then also, like Mark talks about, is our mindfulness. And people talk about mind-body connection. They're already connected by your neck, so that's a news alert to everybody. It's not two separate things. And so I really like adding Bemer as this layer that I know the science works, it's happening, it's proven, but it also gives me time to quiet my mind while my body is also recovering. And I really like that correlation with Bemer and the process of using Bemer and just knowing that the science is working, but that all these other tools are coming in to play while I'm using the Bemer. And I know that that is maximizing my performance as a human.
Rebecca, that's so well stated, so well said. You brought up the mind, this idea of the mind or concept of the mind. Candace Pert wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion many years ago, and it's quoted, "At any one time, the body is in the mind and the mind is in the body. You can't separate them." And that's the beautiful. In ancient Chinese medicine, they linked the mind rather than with the brain, with the heart. And so it really is being in that centered space of virtue, of self-reflection, as well as allowance to allow ourselves to perform and express ourselves at our highest levels. And Bemer helps support that. Louie, on your side, what have you found about, you talk about hitting flat landings. I've heard that for quite a few times today, but I want to know what it feels like to mentally visualize one of the tricks, for instance, that you're doing, and then stick it like you haven't stuck it before. That involves not just picturing, visualization, but embodiment of those movements in every second. How has Bemer kind of brought you into, or not brought you, but maybe heightened your awareness of that space or place?
I mean, I think really it just got me to slow down instead of waking up at the last minute and just eating and then you're right out the door and you're going. I wake up earlier now and it's part of the routine. This is what I do. I get on my Bemer and I kind of think about, most of the time I have maybe my plans for the day. I'm very goal oriented, whether it's, long-term goals, a season goal, a contest goal, or a daily goal. I'm very goal oriented. So it allows me to kind of start planning the day and then going through it in my head of whether it's a trick or a run or anything like that. Just really stop, have the time in the morning because I'm going to be on the Bemer. I need to be on for this much time and really just kind of set my mind for the day. And then obviously it's allowing my back, mostly my back and hips to kind of get woken up as well and get them ready for the day. I'm treating them as I'm treating my mind. I think that's been the biggest thing. And obviously doing it before bed because I've always kind of lacked in the sleeping area.
Yeah, we talk about blood flow, but as we relate to flow, it's not just about blood, it's about fluid, it's about breath, it's about life. From the perspective of naturopathic medicine, we call this the vis medatrix naturae, the healing power of nature. That's within you and all around you. Nothing to find, you just have to remember it. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.